What's going on? What's going on, sports fans? How you doing? How you feeling? Well, the NFL season is over, and the playoff brackets have been set. Kind of an eventful day. 1 o'clock window had a couple of things that were still on the line, and then if you didn't catch the Sunday night game, I mean, it was entertaining. Uh, the Lions go into the game knowing that they can't make the playoffs, and what do? They go into Lambeau Field, win the game. Dan Campbell, his coaching staff and all that, made some risky calls. And as Dan Campbell said going into the game, they're looking at it as a way to eliminate Green Bay. Even though they can't get into the playoffs, they can at least eliminate somebody. And that team played for him. He's obviously the right guy for the job. Yeah, I give him all the credit in the world for that. The Lions are going to be an interesting team next season. I feel like Jared Goff has found a home. He was cast out of LA, was kind of seen as a bust, but he had a really good season and led the Lions to a 9-8 record. And you got to give him all the credit for that. But probably more importantly, as you see from the title of the stream, no playoffs for Aaron Rodgers. I'm a big proponent of that. I was all about any team other than Green Bay. I did think it was probably going to be the Lions getting into the playoffs, but ultimately it was the Seahawks, which we'll get into a little bit here. Don't plan on being you know, on stream too long here, maybe an hour or so, and kind of hoping that maybe some fans, whatever's trickle in, and we can have a little conversation through the comment section. But just a wild day of football, and yeah, so I guess I could start off with my Patriots. They didn't make it. If you caught my stream earlier, I did the second half play-by-play for that game. Didn't expect them to win. Congrats to Buffalo for reigning supreme in the AFC East once again. They had the two kickoff return touchdowns. They were the better team, obviously. Uh, New England hung in there, played well. It was just special teams let them down, and I think there's gonna be some questions in New England in the offseason. We already heard about Robert Kraft expecting some change. I think we know who he's talking about. Uh, Bill Belichick, needs to find an offensive coordinator that's not named Matt Patricia. I think there's gonna be some questions about Mac Jones. I'm a Mac Jones guy. I feel like you can win with him. I mean, I'm not really sure with Mac Jones whether he's a Super Bowl worthy quarterback or if he's going to end up being one of those guys who can get you to the playoffs and kind of that's the ceiling. I'm still on the fence about that one, but Patriots are eliminated, and definitely was scoreboard watching because coming into today, there was the chance of either New England, Miami, or Pittsburgh getting the seventh seed. Ultimately, Miami ends up getting the seventh seed by way of the Patriots losing to the Bills, and then Miami winning 11-6 over the Jets. Dolphins are your seventh seed. Um, Gotta wonder about the Dolphins now. Does that bring Tua back into the conversation in terms of starting the playoff game? I got to be honest with you. I don't know how I feel about that with the three concussion protocol stints for Tua and all that. I would be worried about putting him out there, having him possibly take another hit, hitting his head or something, and then finding himself on a fourth stint. But Miami's going to do what they're going to do because they're in the playoffs. They're going to look to win their wild card round game, of course. Tua is the best quarterback on that team. It's going to be interesting to see how much they value, I guess, his well being. There's already been questions about Miami's handling of Tua this season. Is that going to shape how they handle Tua now? I don't know. They probably should, but I just can't bank on Miami making the right call when it comes to Tua. But yeah, see, like a couple people in here. If you want to drop a comment about whether or not Tua should start, I'll pull you up on stream. We can talk about that. Um, let's see. Pittsburgh, like I said, had a chance to make the playoffs if Miami and New England lost. Fortunately, Miami won, but Mike Tomlin kept his streak alive. It's, I don't know, 20 plus years or something, finishing at 500 or better. Of course, he can't finish 500 anymore with 17 games, but they went 9-8 this year. You got to, I mean, that's a really good year for, Kenny Pickett getting his first, his rookie season out of the way. I feel like he's a promising young quarterback for Pittsburgh going forward. They have Najee Harris, had a good season. He's a good young quarterback. Um, we'll see. Maybe they get another wide receiver or something. I don't know. George Pickens, good. So Pickens and Pickett should be a good connection for the next few years. I'll be interested to see how Pittsburgh kind of fits into that division going forward because we know Cincinnati's not going anywhere with Burrow, Chase, and those guys. Cleveland is another interesting team in that division, especially with Deshaun Watson getting these last few games in this season. How's he going to look going forward into next season? I think Browns fans are optimistic. I mean, think what you want about him personally, but we saw Deshaun Watson when he was with the Texans, was a top flight quarterback. If he can get back to somewhat of that level, Cleveland could be a really good team in that division next season. Baltimore, we know Baltimore's been pretty steady, about 10-win team. Lamar Jackson, he has his contract situation that has to be dealt with. What does Baltimore do there? Because I think a lot of the NFL uh, eyes will be on Baltimore to see, one, do they give Lamar an extension? And then two, for what kind of money? Do they outdo Deshaun Watson's deal with Cleveland, Russell Wilson's deal with Denver? Would it be smart to do that? That's the question that Baltimore's got to ask themselves. So that could either be a really quick negotiation, or that one could get really messy this offseason. Um, I don't know. Maybe there's a benefit to Lamar being his own agent, basically. I think his mom's his agent. He's not really dealing with a. I'm trying to think of the top, like a top agent in the NFL. I'm thinking of Scott Boras, baseball wise, who's a guy who, is always trying to get every penny he can out of a team. Maybe Lamar's not that way, and if their number is somewhat competitive or a little bit more than the contract they offered him before the season, maybe he would sign it. We'll have to see how that goes. See a couple more tuning in. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button or follow over here on Twitch or over on YouTube, whichever platform you're on. Make sure you follow me. Appreciate you guys. Just talking about the NFL season as it ended, going through and kind of giving my thoughts on certain teams. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Pittsburgh. Yeah, so we'll see what goes on in that division because I think the AFC North could be a really good division going forward. At least could be really competitive, I'll say. Um, then we had the AFC South, which was decided on Saturday when Jacksonville completed their turnaround, won the division, knocked off Tennessee. Tennessee was down to their third string quarterback without Josh Dobbs. Well, I mean, I don't think he was terrible on Saturday, but he just wasn't good enough to win that game. And I feel like for them, with Derrick Henry getting a little older, I think Derrick Henry's still a productive running back. I just think there's questions going forward now, like how much of the load can he carry for how much longer, and they need to figure out. They need to hit on somebody at quarterback. I don't know if Tannehill will be back. It seems like they've kind of given up on Malik Willis already. And now you have Joshua Dobbs. Are they going to turn around and go draft another guy? Do they try to trade for one? What do they do there? I feel like they could probably use somebody on the outside. I don't know if their if their wide receiver weapons are good enough right now. Defensively, they need some help. Luckily, with that division, though, Houston still rebuilding. Um, Looking for a new coach now. That's kind of breaking news from tonight. Lovey Smith, one and done in Houston. I'm not surprised. I don't know if any of you are, but whoever they hire next has to be the guy. Houston can't do this one and done stuff anymore. They did with David Culley, who was hired out of nowhere, and people were like, "Who's this guy?" Then they turned around and did it again with Lovey Smith, who most people didn't see getting that job. Now this next guy needs to be a guy that they stick with, let them develop a culture down there, and ride it out for a few years. Even if they hire ultimately the wrong guy, you gotta let it ride out. You can't keep bringing in guys, letting them go, because then who really would want to coach there? And I don't understand why Houston's doing it this way, but it is what it is with them. They probably need a lot of front office shakeup down there. Um, Quarterback position, big question in Houston with Davis Mills. Was it Jeff Driscoll? Guys like that. Yeah, that ain't it. So oddly enough, today by beating the Colts, they lost out on the number one pick. They're now picking second. The Bears have the number one pick now. Now, luckily, the Bears should not be in the market for a quarterback. But now what comes into play is a team who might be behind Houston jumping up to one, making a deal with Chicago, and maybe taking the quarterback that Houston would want. I mean, it is a risk to take, I guess, but if they value, I guess, Young and Stroud, I guess would be the top two quarterbacks. If they kind of value them on a level playing field, then it wouldn't really matter. They'll just take whichever one's left at number two. But if they have one valued over the other, they're probably going to have to pay attention and see who might be in talks with Chicago to move up to one. So could it be that them scoring late, Lovey Smith and his staff going for two, ultimately winning that game, costing Houston the number one pick? Could he have screwed Houston a little bit on his way out the door? We'll have to see in the coming months. Um, the Colts, they have their own issues. They have an owner in Jim Irsay who wants to be Jerry Jones so bad that I feel like he's a detriment to the team at times. They are another team with quarterback questions. They went through, I mean, the past few years, with Rivers and Wentz and all that, but this year you had um, Matt Ryan, who was supposed to be once again another one of the retreads that they put out there, thinking that they were close, didn't work. It got so bad it turned to Nick Foles, who I think they took off a practice squad or something and brought him in, or whatever the story is there. It didn't work with him either. They dumped Frank Reich mid-season, turned to Jeff Saturday of all people. Didn't see that coming. Kind of turned it into a bit of a joke to me. And now, if Irsay doesn't bring Saturday back, would you be jumping at the chance to interview with Jim Irsay for possibly getting the Colts job? I don't know how attractive that job is anymore. Well, I mean, I guess it probably still would be. I don't know. If it was me, probably not. But I mean, that's a division that with Jacksonville winning it this season, Doug Peterson, good coach, Trevor Lawrence, stable quarterback player. They have great young people. Travis Etienne, a running back. Their wide receiving position has been kind of like cast offs that they brought in there, and it worked this season. I think defensively they're getting better. Jacksonville could go on a little run here where they might dominate that division for the next couple of years. Um, what else? Oh, AFC West, a division that came in with a lot of hype this season, and ultimately was kind of a dud. Other than the top two, who I guess we pretty much knew was going to be Kansas City and somebody, and whether the Chargers were going to step up or Denver was a big, preseason favorite when they went and got Russell Wilson. We all know how that turned out. But Kansas City was the steady team in that division, although they kind of got overshadowed during the preseason or the offseason. Because, like I said, the Raiders brought in Josh McDaniels, brought a lot of hype with him. I already said Russell Wilson to Denver. And then the Chargers with Justin Herbert, who, has been elevated to a top 10, top 5 quarterback in this league, I feel like, to some. So ultimately, what ended up happening is Kansas City wins the division. The Chargers do make the playoffs, so Herbert's going to get his first taste of the postseason. I'll pull up the NFL playoff bracket here in a second, and we can kind of talk about that real quick. But um, yeah, that's a division that's going to go through some more turmoil this offseason because the Raiders, it seems like, have basically moved on from Derek Carr and have chosen Josh McDaniels, which I wonder how Raiders fans would feel about that. But that's what it seems like. They say they want to keep Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams and Derek Carr had a connection. I don't know how that's going to work. They played Jarrett Stidham, who was with New England, moved out there, be with Josh McDaniels, played well for like a game or so, but I doubt he's their answer at quarterback. I mean, if he is, I don't know. That could be the thing that maybe sets Raiders fans over the top with McDaniels. I don't know because they might be looking at Stidham as Tebow 2.0, depending on how you feel about Jarrett Stidham. But the Raiders definitely have some work to do there. Denver, they fired Nathaniel Hackett, which that was kind of a weird situation this offseason as well. Nathaniel Hackett was brought in seemingly to attract Aaron Rodgers there, but they couldn't get that done. So they were stuck with Hackett, then went and got Russell Wilson. And it just seemed like whatever offense was meant for Aaron Rodgers, they tried to run Russell Wilson. It didn't work. So now the next guy who goes in there is got to look at that situation and see, can they fix whatever was broken with Russell Wilson this season. And I think towards the end of his Seattle tenure, we were hearing some stuff about him holding the ball too much and all that, which I guess he kind of did that this season as well, which is where he got in trouble. But it seemed like he was playing a little bit better towards the end of the season. And like I said, this next hire is going to be very important for them. If they hire the right guy, maybe they right the ship. And with the defense that they have there, could they vault themselves from out of the playoffs into the playoffs next season? I think they could. But like I said, we'll have to see who they hire down there. See, just mentioned the Chargers' first playoff game. Well, does that mean Staley's job is safe? Because I do think Staley was on the hot seat coming into this season if they weren't able to make the playoffs, number one. But number two, let's say wild card round, they get blown out. Does he then become a member on the hot seat again? Could he possibly lose his job after making his first playoff appearance? But because they don't perform well in the playoffs, would they still move on from him? Could depend on if a certain guy out there named Sean Payton wanted the job. Would they move Staley out for Sean Payton? I don't know. That's going to be interesting to see as well. But yeah, like I said, Kansas City, steady as ever, moving on to the playoffs. Um, so NFC East, feel like it was another NFC East type of season. The Eagles won the division. Jalen Hurts has established himself as one of the good, well, I guess one of the better young quarterbacks in the league. Sirianni and that crew. They're an entertaining team to watch with Devontae Smith, AJ Brown. Their defensive secondary was really good. And I'm interested to see what they look like in the playoffs because with them being a one seed, you know, getting a bye and all that, I think their divisional round game, there's going to be a lot of pressure on that team only because they don't have a lot of experience in the playoffs. And I want to see what they look like in that game. I mean, that might be the best chance for somebody to upset them because if they get through that game, they could be fine and make a deep run. But like I said, that first game could be the chance to knock them off. Cowboys had a Cowboys type season, but we know what the Cowboys is all about, what they do in the postseason. And they kind of have some issues at quarterback. Dak Prescott has not looked good. He's become kind of a turnover machine all of a sudden, which is the one thing that you don't really expect from him. And we, like I said, we already know what Cowboys fans, they're feeling really good right now about being a playoff team. They're usually riding high, thinking it's their year for a Super Bowl run. But if they lose in the wild card round, we definitely know how that will go. A lot of the memes will pop up of fans being upset and all that. So uh, I feel like anytime the Cowboys are in the playoffs, there's a lot of pressure on them to do well because of them wanting to be America's team. The popularity of the Cowboys. So we'll see how this group can handle that. I mean, they have Micah Parsons, who's a stud defensively, and can he kind of just put all this on his back, dominate defensively to the point where the Cowboys finally make a Super Bowl run? We'll have to see. The Giants, to be honest with you, I was not a big believer in the Giants. I thought they, even though they had a really good start to their season, I thought once they started losing games, they were kind of going to fall out. I was completely wrong about that. Brian Dable did a great job in New York, but now questions in New York are going to be, what do they do with Daniel Jones? Up until this year, I feel like a lot of Giants fans are ready to move on from him, but seeing Dayball coach him this year, and I feel like the growth that he made, he cut down on turnovers. He seemed like a better decision maker. Do the Giants turn around now and extend him, hoping that Dayball continues to develop him, and maybe he becomes a really good quarterback someday? I think Saquon Barkley is, I think, at the end of his rookie deal. What do they do with him? He has a past injury history, but he was relatively healthy this season. So what do they do with him? Um, and then the Commanders, the lowly Commanders, who started with Wentz, went terribly, went to Heineke, really good. Then it went south. Then inexplicably went back to Wentz, got eliminated, and then they turned to Sam Howell and won today. I'm assuming Ron Rivera is on his way out. I guess. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens tomorrow. I feel like we're going to get a couple of firings tomorrow. And if not then probably was the Monday after the Super Bowl, which is Black Monday. We'll probably get some then. But Ron Rivera is going to be a name to watch. I don't know whether or not Washington should get rid of him. Back in my mind, I think he ends up getting fired from there. And if so, what does Washington do there? Especially with this Dan Snyder thing. Will he sell the team? Will he not? I believe if he sells the team, it's probably a more attractive job. If he's still there, then I don't know. That's gonna be a tricky one to see as well. But they got to decide quarterback position because I think Heineke is a change of pace backup type, like a Nick Foles guy. Who, if you turn to him for like 3-4 games, he looks pretty good. Anything past that, then you start seeing why he's a backup. But I also don't think Wentz is the guy. Now, unless they bring in somebody who believes in Wentz and thinks they could turn Wentz around, I don't know if Wentz. I don't know what they do with Wentz. NFC North. Let's see. The Vikings win the division pretty easily, although the Vikings have 13 wins and nobody believes in them, which I think is interesting. But then again, you got to remember, now with it being the playoffs, Kirk Cousins, primetime Kirk Cousins, is going to show up because it always seems like whenever they're the one game that's on, Kirk Cousins and the Vikings don't play well. So can he turn that around this season? Big question about them. I mean, it does help to have Justin Jefferson, best wide receiver in the league. Can he make a few plays that help Kirk Cousins really get through it this year? We'll see. Green Bay used to have a stranglehold on the division. That's clearly gone. They're gonna have to decide what to do with Aaron Rodgers. We know it's gonna be another drama-filled offseason with him. We saw it tonight's game. He was playing well, up until it started to snowball on him. Lions took the lead. He threw that big interception late, and that was it. We saw the whole parade after the game with Rodgers and Randall Cobb walking off. Cameras were all on him. The questions have already started about his future. We'll see what he does with that. We already know that's going to be a story all off season. But how about those Detroit Lions? I mean, how many fans did they, acquire just from tonight, beating Green Bay in a situation where the Lions came into the game tonight, eliminated from the playoffs, didn't care, turn around, beat Green Bay, knock Green Bay out. Seattle ends up getting the seventh seed. But Dan Campbell and that group definitely building something for next season. And I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch. Uh, they've made Jared Goff into a. I don't know where you would rank him. I don't know if he's not top 10. He's probably like a top 15 quarterback in the league right now. But he definitely looks better than he did the last couple of years with the Rams. Because even the Super Bowl year, it seemed like it was, they got there despite Jared Goff. Whereas now it looks like he's a legit, starting quarterback with this Detroit group. He seems to fit, Dan Campbell's mentality and system. So I feel like he should be back. And they kind of build off of this season. Maybe they make the bottom of the playoff picture next season. But I definitely like what Dan Campbell's doing there. And I think the Lions would be a team to watch in that division. I can see the next couple of years of a Vikings, Lions top two in that division. I could see it. And then the Bears, like I just said before when I was talking about the Texans, the Bears have the number one pick. I hope they don't sit there and try to take a quarterback number one because Justin Fields is a good quarterback. They just have to build around him. So worry about that this draft. Get him a wide receiver. Uh, Depending on what David Montgomery and the running back group, maybe get him one of those, get him an offensive line, then try to evaluate him next season and the season after. But I think they'd be foolish to try to go get a quarterback, start that process. They also need a coach, I believe. Yeah, because I think they fired their guy mid-season, then went with the interim guy. So I think they'll be looking for a coach this offseason. And I think because of Justin Fields, that job isn't that bad. It'll just be whoever's making the draft picks. If they can hit a home run this draft, then yeah. Then yeah, I think Chicago could build some momentum as well. NFC South was a dumpster fire all season. Um, Tampa Bay won it, being 8-9, won it by a full game. The rest of the division went 7-10, and to be honest with you, there's not really much else going on in that division. I think the Saints will be a team to watch because Dennis Allen, I feel like he may be another guy who gets fired down there. You have Alvin Kamara, quarterback positions between Dalton, Jameis Winston. To be honest with you, since he's been hurt, I haven't heard a thing about him. Not saying I'm like some Saints insider or anything. I don't really pay attention, but I feel like I haven't heard anything about Jameis Winston. So what's going on with that situation? But I mean, I guess they're looking for a quarterback. We have Chris Olave, who they drafted this past year, who looks like a stud as a wide receiver. Like I said, Kamara, probably getting up there in age. We know with running backs, you just never know when they fall off. Defensively, I think they're okay. So the Saints can maybe do a quick turnaround in that division. I mean, even the Bucks win the division, but I think there's going to be questions about Brady this offseason, whether he goes San Francisco or he goes to Miami or whatever, or does he stay there and finish out his season in Tampa, or finish out his career maybe in Tampa Bay. Oh yeah, there'll probably be some rumors about linking him back to New England or something like that as well. Um, Falcons, they went with Mariota. Mariota got hurt, went to Desmond Ritter. Can't really say that I've been encouraged by anything I've seen from Desmond Ritter, but I don't know if them taking a quarterback this draft would make much sense because there's so many other holes on that team that I just don't. I honestly don't know where they should start. I feel like they probably should start with that defense because other than Grady Jarrett, AJ Terrell, who else would you really want off that defense? And Grady Jarrett's kind of getting up there in age at this point. So I feel like they should probably go defense heavy in free agency and the draft. Maybe go through another season of kind of middle of the road offense and then do something offensively probably next year. But the Falcons have a lot of holes to fill, a lot of question marks. I think they're in for a little bit of a rebuild here. Carolina's been an interesting team. Steve Wilkes, does he keep that job? Probably not. Or maybe he does. I mean, they flirted with Harbaugh, but then there's reports that Harbaugh is going to stay in Michigan. I don't know if I believe that or not, but I don't know. We'll see. Can Wilkes keep the Carolina job? He dealt with a lot this season. Christian McCaffrey trade, the quarterback room with PJ Walker, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. They traded Robbie Anderson, and they finished second in that division. Yes, it was an odd year where the division wasn't good, so they're the second best of the worst division in football this year. But it's still something to hang your hat on, I guess. I mean, it would be kind of rough for him to go one and done again, like what happened to him with Arizona when they pushed him out the door to get Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, and all that down there. I think that was I think that's what happened with him. He was saddled with like Josh Rosen as the quarterback. Go figure. And then finally, NFC West. Let's see. Niners win that division. They're clearly the best team in that division, top to bottom. And at this point, with Shanahan, the players they have there, you could plug in Joe Montana today on that team, and I feel like they'd win 11 games easy. But Brock Purdy, he, I guess, tread water. They kept winning with him, and now they look much more optimistic going into the playoffs. Where I think before, when Garoppolo went down, there was questions about could Purdy even last, to the playoffs, play well enough that he would start the first game of the playoffs, or they would kind of just wing it. I don't know, but if Garoppolo, let's say, is ready for the NFC title game, I could see them still getting there even with Brock Purdy, because it seems like Shanahan has modified the offense to fit Purdy. And as long as Purdy takes care of the ball, doesn't throw, stupid interceptions or anything like that, I feel like the Niners will be good to go. Seahawks, get into the playoffs, final week of the season. They came into today knowing that they had to beat the Rams and then hope for a Packers loss. They get that, they're in. They've been one of the great stories of the season. They were a team that expected to win like 3-4 games. They ended up winning 9. They had Geno Smith, their quarterback. Geno Smith cast off from the Jets, kind of seen as a bust or whatever. He revitalized his career under Pete Carroll, who Pete Carroll, I think, seemingly took a bit of a hit after the Russell Wilson departure, but it looks like Pete Carroll still knows what he's doing in Seattle. They have Kenneth Walker, who, really came on this year as a good young running back. I like some of the pieces in in Seattle. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, guys like that. So, Seattle, they did their thing this year. They may not last long in the playoffs, but they beat expectations, and they should be proud of that. The Rams win the Super Bowl last year, one of the worst teams this year. I think they won with 5 games or something. And to be honest with you, it seems really bad in LA right now. There's reports that McVay may step away because he's going to deal with a rebuild, which I think if he does that, that's kind of a weak move by him, because what's the thinking behind that? Like, he reached that status already that he could just step away because he's too big for a rebuild? Give me a break. Like they sold out to win a Super Bowl last year. It blew up in their face this year. I mean, I guess it can happen, but for him to kind of just pull away from that kind of says something about him. And if he's stepping away to get a better job or whatever, yeah, I'd be weary of that. Giving off Bobby Petrino vibes to me, to be honest with you. But if that's what he chooses to do, um, got a chat here. Okay, I mean, I to be honest with you, I mean it's in Spanish, so God music. What? Okay. Um, but yeah. So it's the Ram situation. It's going to be interesting to see what goes on there. Um, Aaron Donald could retire. He had one foot out the door last year, so easy to expect him to probably retire this year. And then, as McVay has alluded to, the rebuild would begin at that point. And finally, the Cardinals. What's going on there? Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, that duo has failed miserably. They thought pairing them up in the NFL would reap the benefits of college football, and it didn't at all. So I guess what they need to do is they gotta pick one lane. You either stick it out with Kyler Murray and get him a coach down there that's a disciplinarian and can sit Kyler Murray down and be like, you have to be a professional. You got to do this, and this to be a good quarterback. The buddy thing or whatever, Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, whatever they were trying to build there, not gonna work. And so, like I said, you either do that or you re-signed Kingsbury with last season to like a 5-year deal. You commit to him, and you probably got to trade Kyler Murray. But we kind of know how that discussion goes in the NFL. They usually side with the quarterback. So I feel like they bite the bullet, fire Kingsbury. I mean, I don't think they could like trade Kingsbury or something like that. Who would want him? They kind of do that, hit a bit of a reset, start it over, but get Kyler Murray a coach that's going to challenge him, force him to be a leader on that team, and kind of go from there. They have, DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver. He's going to need help. They tried AJ Green. At this point in AJ Green's career, I don't know what you can really expect from him year after year. They have James Conner at running back. I feel like the defense could use some help. So Arizona could be a couple of year rebuild. But yeah, that was just quick thoughts on each team around the NFL. Uh, you let me know what you think. Let me know who's your team, and got any questions for them. But I'm excited for these playoffs though, and hopefully you are as well. It's gonna be a wild card weekend because I see some of these matchups going kind of either way because there's some teams that I feel like they're inexperienced, so we don't know what they'll look like, and then there are teams who, you know, aren't the strongest team, so they could be right for picking. But I guess let me pull up the bracket and we can kind of go through that and talk about that. So as that's pulling up, um, also you let me know as you trickle through or stop by and just leave a comment. What do you think is the Super Bowl matchup that you expect to see? So let's see if it's pulled up here. All right. Hopefully this doesn't completely lag the stream here. All right. So here's the current bracket. bring me in over here. Okay, so Kansas City is your one seed on the AFC side. The Eagles are the one seed over on the NFC side. And looking at this, you have Chargers, Jaguars, which I said is Lawrence versus Herbert, which I think is a great matchup because two young quarterbacks, they've been compared to a lot. So we'll get to see it on the field. We'll see which one is the better one on that day. I think they released the schedule for the games. I'll pull that up later on before I get out of here. But sorry about that. Okay, so we'll be interested to see what happens in that matchup there. Then we have Ravens Bengals. It's gonna be the third time this season. Both teams have won one game. So then going into this rubber match in the playoffs, we'll see which one of them can come through there. There's gonna be questions with Baltimore. Is Lamar Jackson gonna play? He hasn't played the past 4 or 5 weeks. He supposedly, I'm assuming, will play in the playoff game. But will that change anything though? I still think the Bengals are the better team. I know they had a couple of guys get nicked up today in the game against the Ravens, but I fully expect the Bengals to win that game. Give me Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd over Lamar and J.K. Dobbins and Mark Andrews. So I fully expect the Bengals to win that one. Dolphins, Bills. I think the Bills win that one easily. I think the Dolphins are they're taking on water. They're a ship that's sinking right now, and they luckily made it into the playoffs today. So yeah, I'm not expecting much of anything from them. So yeah, I think it's one and done with Miami. So I fully expect to see Buffalo, Cincinnati, and I think Jacksonville beats the Chargers. Like I said, I like Lawrence and Peterson. I like that duo, what they're building with Jacksonville. I just have a feeling that Staley finds a way to screw it up. So give me Jacksonville, which means next round you'd have Jacksonville play Kansas City and then Cincinnati and Buffalo. NFC side, like I said, Eagles, they're the one seed, they get the bye. Well, actually, before I get into that, so with the AFC, gotta say this. Because of what happened today with Buffalo and Cincinnati winning, if Buffalo meets Kansas City in the AFC title game, it is now a neutral site game. Remember, Bengals, Bills was canceled because of Damar Hamlin, who is progressing, and it was cool to see Naheem Hines FaceTime Damar Hamlin today after the Patriots win. You know, he looked like he was smiling and everything on the other side, so that was really cool to see. But Buffalo meets Kansas City, AFC title game. It is now neutral site. I guess we'll wait to hear if that does happen. Which site would they use? If you ask me, it should be an outdoor site, number one, because both teams play outdoors, so don't give me no dome game. And two, it should be somewhat centralized between both cities, so both fans traveling there, it's kind of fair for both. And if you think about it, off the top of my head, the only cities I could really think of are maybe Nashville and maybe Cleveland. Mm-hmm. Because Indy already said they're not doing it. To be honest with you, like I said, Indy's in a dome. They shouldn't have been in play to begin with. So Jim say whatever, not available. Cool, they're off the table anyway. But that's what I'm thinking: Nashville or Cleveland. I mean, I've heard Pittsburgh thrown out there because of Hamlin having Pittsburgh roots. I don't know if you could get Kansas City to sign off on that, or if Kansas City, or if Kansas City would view it as fair if the league chose Pittsburgh, so they probably wouldn't. But that would be an interesting thing. But I'm thinking Nashville or Cleveland. That's my guess. What else? What else happened? There's some other scenario. So Cincinnati, Baltimore. No, no. Well, Cincinnati won that division by 2 games. So that doesn't matter. But I think something with Cincinnati and Buffalo, if they meet, so if it goes as I planned, they'll meet in the divisional round, and something's going to happen with that matchup because both teams won today. I don't know if it's a neutral site or it's a coin toss to see which one of them gets the home game. It's something I'd have to look it up again, but yes, because of what happened last Monday night with that game being canceled, and because of the wins by both teams today, the divisional round game, if they do meet up, there'd be some stipulation with it. That Get that out there before we go on. So the NFC, Eagles have the 1 seed, and then we have Dallas, Tampa Bay in the 4-5 matchup. I gotta tell you, that's gonna be an interesting game because Dallas will go into that, I'm assuming, as the favorite because of the season Tampa Bay just had. But can you really count out Tom Brady in the playoffs against the Cowboys, who I believe he's 8-0 against the Cowboys between Tampa Bay and New England? It, like I said, the Cowboys with Dak Prescott, he's been kind of loose with the football. And if he does something like that against Tampa Bay, it might get ugly. But I I kind of think Brady finds a way to pull it off there. It has not been pretty all year. I've been one of those who, if you caught me on any of the Sports Empire Network appearances I've made, basically week in and week out for like 6 weeks, I've been saying sooner or later the Bucks will turn it around and they'll figure it out. And it just never happened. Even with their wins, they've been ugly, like field goal differences, late winning game winning field goal type games. And it just never, like, Brady just hasn't looked comfortable at all down there. But like I said, there's just something about playoff football that Brady's going to find a way to get it done here. Now, I'm not saying Tampa Bay will make some Super Bowl run or anything like that, but I could see them knocking off the Cowboys. Now, I know the seeding wise is not an upset, but I mean, looking at both teams, you'd have to figure that's an upset. We'd have Giants, Vikings, kind of both teams with big question marks. With the Vikings, it's, well, as I mentioned before, primetime Kirk Cousins. When the spotlight's on the Vikings, doesn't play well. The team doesn't play well. Team usually doesn't win. What's the playoffs? They're always going to be the only team on. The only game on when they play in the playoffs. So it's kind of the same thing there. Could it be something where they just need to get by to the Giants, even if it's ugly, and then maybe Kirk Cousins can go on a run with this group? You got Justin Jefferson, best wide receiver in football. You have Adam Thielen, who is a very capable number 2 guy. Dalvin Cook, I think, will be a key for them because he's a guy that if he gets it going, then that's a little bit less off of Kirk Cousins' shoulders, and I think that's going to be the key for them. If it turns to something where Dalvin Cook gets stopped, he can't get going, and you're asking Kirk Cousins to throw the ball like 40, 50 times, that's where I think Minnesota gets into trouble. The Giants, like I said, they've had plenty of injuries all season. Like, sitting here right now, I couldn't tell you who's their top, wide receiver. Couldn't tell you. I'm assuming it's probably a lot of passes short to Saquon Barkley. But Saquon Barkley for them is the biggest key as well because he can produce in the running game and in the short passing game. And he's been healthy most of the year. So he's their biggest offensive threat. But if you pay too much attention to him, Daniel Jones can burn you with his legs. So that's going to be an interesting matchup there. It might be a game that starts off very slow, but I could see one team breaking through, getting a touchdown, and that maybe turning into a mini shootout. But I have the Vikings there. I've been kind of on the Vikings bandwagon a lot of the season. I've been saying from week 1 that I feel like there's something different with this Vikings team, and ultimately they won the division by a wide margin. But now I think people are going to start paying attention to them to see what they do now come playoff time. Seattle, San Francisco, third time meeting. Seattle squeaks into the playoffs. I mean, they could ride that wave, but I just think San Francisco is too complete of a team right now that I think San Francisco wins that game. I don't know if I'll say wins it handily because I feel kind of, iffy about saying that about a playoff game, but I think San Francisco gets that win. So we'll be looking at a divisional round. Uh, Tampa Bay facing the Eagles, and then Vikings Niners. But did I pick all the favorites? Oh, now I'm screwed. There's no way that happens. Well, actually, we'll see what the lines look like because I could see the Chargers being the favorite over Jacksonville, and I took Jacksonville. And I can also see the Cowboys being the favorite over the Bucks, and I'm taking the Bucks. So maybe I took a couple of underdogs there. But that's how I would see it for the divisional round. Um, you know, put down comment section or whatever what you think. But let me see. I mean, should I play it out? Well, okay, so that's how I see wild card round going. Once we get a division round, I'll do another stream or video or something and talk about that. But coming into the playoffs, my initial thoughts, I feel like it's going to be the Niners coming out of the NFC. I think the Bengals make a repeat trip to the Super Bowl this year. I think we get Bengals Niners, which would be a throwback to the Super Bowl in what year was that? Was that early 90s? It was Joe Montana's Niners and Boomer Esiason's Bengals. I think it was like a 46-10 Niners win, but I can see a rematch of that. I can see the Bengals and the Niners making it to the Super Bowl this year. Of course, for the Niners, their biggest opponent to get there would probably be the Eagles. If the Bucks make it past the Cowboys and somehow beat the Eagles, then I'd probably say probably the Bucks at that point. But I think the Niners get there, and with the Bengals, it's going to be a tough road for them. They'd have to get through Josh Allen in Buffalo, then Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. They already beat Kansas City once this season. I guess beat them twice in the same season would be tough. And we already know about Bills Bengals being canceled, so we'd get that game again to replace the first game. But that's how I see the playoffs, shaping up. Let me know what you think. Like I said, I was gonna do about an hour. I'm about 52 minutes in, so I guess I could hold out for a few more minutes if people jump on the stream, want to throw something in the comments. Hang out here for about 7-8 more minutes, and we'll see. But while that's happening, let me see if I can find the playoff schedule. Let's talk about that. Because I do think that is finalized now. Please tell me that they have it up on here. Because I don't want to jump to it. Yes. So here we go. So, yeah, scheduled and finalized. Here we are. Saturday, we're going to have Seahawks, Niners, 4:30. Chargers, Jacksonville get the nightcap. Think that makes sense. Like I said, everybody wants to see Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Herbert. So I'm fully down for that. Then Sunday, we get Dolphins, Bills, first game, 1 o'clock. Makes sense. I don't think there's a lot of intrigue with that matchup. Giants, Vikings, 4:30. Makes sense. And yeah, Bengals, Baltimore should be the primetime game on Sunday. I fully agree with that. That's the best game out of the three for Sunday. Yeah, easy call. And once we knew it was Dallas and Tampa Bay, obviously that was going to be the Monday night game. No doubt about that at all. Because yes, Cowboys are the most expensive franchise. They probably the biggest fan base. Blah 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 blah. That's why they're on Monday. But you get Tom Brady, and we know what that brings with it. So yeah, that was the obvious game for Monday night. And there you are. That's your schedule for the NFL playoffs. And let me move this back up here so you can see that. There we go. So I'll leave that up on the screen for the last few minutes. But let me see. Yes, I kind of ranked the games as well. All right, so as I'm winding down here, just to remind you guys, all my social medias have been scrolling through the bottom there. Make sure you follow me on all of those. But this week on Sports Empire Network, I'm on there Monday night for Cheap Seats Podcast, NFL, NBA, Barbershop Talk. Tune in, great show. We've been together for 2 weeks now. Each show's just been great, so check me out there. Tuesday night, Big Three Podcast. Um, we'll, we will deep dive into these matchups for the playoffs. I'm on there with my boys Dylan and Jordan. We go through all of these, talk about them. So check me out there as well. Another great show. Then Thursday night, pre-gaming pigskin. We have a special guest with us on Thursday night, Carolina Teague. Got to tune in for that. We're talking football on there as well. So you'll get your full fix of me talking about these playoff games all week. Each night, I'm on there 7 o'clock p.m. Make sure you tune in. We really, 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 really appreciate it. We appreciate the support. The network is doing big things, expecting a big year this year. So definitely tune into those shows. But yeah. Let me see what else I want to talk about. Last couple minutes here. All right, so if looking at this playoff picture and all that, well, I'll just keep the schedule up here. I don't have to pull the bracket back up, but I feel like we know who the Super Bowl contenders are. Let's be honest. In the AFC, I think it's going to come down to Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati. I don't see any other team. I know Jordan's tuning in. Sorry, I'm not putting your Ravens in that group. But I think between those three teams, any one of them comes out of the AFC, not surprised. Outside of that, yeah, I'd be shocked. NFC, I think it's probably even a smaller list. I think it's San Francisco and I'll probably go San Francisco, Philly, Tampa Bay. Like I said, if Tampa Bay gets through Dallas, at that point, I wouldn't doubt that they couldn't make a Super Bowl run. Because I'm assuming to beat Dallas, they probably played their best game, and then it'll just make me think, yeah, I'm riding with Brady at that point. Outside of that, would be a little surprised. Like I said, Minnesota, even though they're the 3 seed, got questions about them. I would need to see Kirk Cousins prove it to me. Now he can start with the Giants game. If they go against the Giants, completely blow them out, I might change my thought about them. But yeah, I'm riding with those three. And Tampa Bay is an iffy one, but I got to throw Tampa Bay in there because of Brady. Um, yeah, that's how I see power rankings there. And all right, so got a couple more minutes. Let's see what we can talk about. All right, so actually, let me go back to the Aaron Rodgers thing because I really wonder what's going to happen with him. Does he retire? Does he move on? Or does he do this thing where he pouts, he threatens to leave and all that, and then he just ultimately returns to Green Bay? I mean, you guys gotta let me know. I think Aaron Rodgers is back in Green Bay next year. I think this will all be one whole thing again. He'll be back. He'll make it seem like it's one more time he'll try it, but I don't know. I'm starting to question whether Green Bay should want him back. To be honest with you, because this year showed a lot. Big time struggle. He doesn't put up the numbers he used to put up. It took him forever to realize that Christian Watson was a pretty good wide receiver. So, do they want to go through all that again next year? Though they have Aaron Jones, they got AJ Dillon in terms of running backs. Could you rely on them again next season? I don't know. I I just have questions on if Rodgers were to go back there. You know, the draft will come around. There'll be this outcry for them to get offensive help. They'll probably draft somebody defensively. That becomes a storyline. And I think Christen's put it perfectly at the end of the game. Look, they're paying him big money. He has to buy in. He's got to be there day one, like OTAs and all that kind of stuff. This connection he's built with Christian Watson late this season, got to continue that, do that through OTAs, and maybe they hit the ground running next season. Maybe they don't. Maybe he comes back, they're third best in that division, with the Vikings clearly better, and they're kind of fighting like they were this year with the Lions edging them out. And do you deal with that with the price tag just to finish third and maybe miss the playoffs again? Would Rodgers want to come back and possibly have that happen? I don't know. All I know is that final scene, him waiting for Randall Cobb, putting his hand over his shoulder, them walking out, camera following them. I mean, that have you believe he's retiring tomorrow. I just don't expect it. But that's just me. I've seen too much with Aaron Rodgers. I understand what he's all about. So that was my last 2 cents. But yeah, like I said, wasn't gonna do a long stream. I mean, I'm on the East Coast. It's after 1. Maybe I'll do another stream tomorrow. I don't know. Like I said, I got cheap seats Monday, Big 3 Tuesday, pregame pigskin Thursday night, Sports Empire Network, each night 7 p.m. Make sure you check me out there. And if I'm not doing a live stream, I'm usually just posting. I'm usually just putting a video up on the YouTube channel, chomping at the bit. So make sure you go over there as well. But this has been fun. For the time, I wasn't expecting a lot of viewers and all that, but it's cool. But this is going to be part of the plan for 2023. I plan on doing a lot more live streams. Obviously, with the NFL season winding down, I'll switch to NBA. I'll try to do some play-by-play for the NBA as well. Some other sports as well. Kind of make this a regular thing. But for right now, like I said, this was the third stream I've done right now. So yeah, just bringing something new. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. I mean, I'll have to tell you: like, subscribe, share, notification bell. You know the deal. Go ahead and do all that. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. And yeah, I think that's my time. I think I'm done. But NFL season's over. Patriots didn't make it. Whatever. It's all good. We will be back next season. Trust me. As long as I get the right offensive coordinator. But I'll have plenty of time to talk about that. But yeah, thanks guys for tuning in. Enjoy yourself. Have a great day. Well, depending on where you are, have a great night. Be safe and cherish your loved ones. And also, keep making progress, Damar. Keep making progress. You're almost there. But you still have some fighting to do, but one day at a time. All right, guys. Have a good one.